Yeah, now that you're saying like little wins, it's like, yes, you go out, you find those little wins, you stack them, and you get to change the game because like life doesn't have set rules. I mean, our culture tends to direct us in one direction or another of like the rules for you are like success for you may look a certain way because of your family, their expectations, the background that you live in. But success can look however you'd like it to look, and teeny win successes can look however you want them to look. And if you gamify life, you can stack those wins, and that does feel pretty great.
Welcome to the Growth Mavericks podcast, where we know that entrepreneurship isn't just about strategy, it's about stamina. It's about disrupting your default and getting comfortable being uncomfortable so you don't burn out before you break through. I'm your host, Adam Callinan. Let's get to work. Conversation today is with Jimmy Feman from NoBaked's. Jimmy just moved here to Montana recently, and we got connected and hit it off. So you'll hear some friendly banter from friends in the episode. I will warn you that we spent the first 7.5 minutes talking about car stuff. I bought a 1994 Land Rover Defender 110 pickup recently that I've been doing some things to and adding some of my time and love to get it ready for a Montana winter. I left that in there, frankly, because for some reason, some of my best performing content on LinkedIn and the other socials revolves entirely not around business things, but around the things that we do in life in Montana, which includes that truck. So I left it in. If you don't want to hear about it, skip the first 7.5 minutes. After that, we get into talking about why companies quit, why founders of companies quit and businesses die. We spend a lot of time talking about the sort of American grind mindset that is part of the reason the United States is as successful as it is because of that grind culture. But at the same time, there is, like all things, a healthy balance of accomplishment versus that grind. And we do spend some time talking through that based on a post he did that went viral on LinkedIn talking about a French lifestyle. So we also spend a fair bit of time talking about something that is near and dear to me as of late, which is working with your spouse. Something that I have never done within a business that I've ever owned or been a part of, but I'm now starting to do. And Jimmy and his wife, Megan, started NoBaked's, and he has some really good insight on how to navigate that world that is a new thing for me that I do know a lot of people deal with. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jimmy Feman.
I agree.
The car is good. I got all the suspension replaced in my garage, which was a hell of a process. If you intend to ever do car stuff and don't have an impact drill, spend $150 and buy an impact drill. It is a game-changing piece of equipment for taking apart, particularly on old, rusty 30-year-old things. But yeah, it's completely now functional. I had to redo the brake lines in the back. I blew up the fuel pump which is good because it means it was weak, and I want to know that it's weak, and it like blew up on my street at 75 degrees, in August. So I got to replace the fuel pump, which was a massive pain in the ass. But it's like road safe now, which is good.
That is good. Yeah. I mean, that's always the thing that happens with old cars. I think me and you texted back and forth about it, but like there's weird stuff that you don't expect to go bad. I bought this like mint condition Range Rover in 2020 because I was like, oh, I'll buy this car. It's a cash, it's like a 2000. But it's not going to break. This old guy had it in his garage, and it only has 100,000 miles on it. That's pretty crazy for a 20-year-old car. Everything broke on that car except the things that matter, but everything matters. So it's like coolant
Yeah.
lines, fuel lines, anything that really was made of rubber. It all broke. Everything
Yeah.
else, like the engine, the transmission, the suspension, everything was great. Just not that.
Yeah. I drove it a lot this weekend. I was out I guess it was kind of an entrepreneur thing that turned into taking a bunch of guys from out of town out elk hunting at 5:30 in the morning thing. They brought a camera crew, which I had never done before. I mean, I see the footage will be epic because I called in two bulls up this hill, and they were like bugling in the background, and we got within like 35 yards of one of the two bulls. I didn't actually see it. It was in really thick cover, but one of the other guys did. But I drove that truck like 40 miles on the highway out there way up into the mountains. And it's like that kind of stress. It's all just stress testing it, just like
Yeah.
pushing the things. I want to break one of the guys like opened the door and the door handle broke off. It's like, I want to break that. I want to break that stuff now while it's 65 degrees and lovely outside so that it doesn't break when it's -10 and nighttime and
Yeah.
snowing.
I wanted to ask you this. Is it a diesel?
Yeah. So
So
that comes with
what's
all sorts of other stuff. I
yeah,
know.
what's the plan for winter with that?
I mean, I'm driving it. You know, I mean,
Driving it.
it'll like we have another
Keep it
car, so
warm.
like yeah, when it'll stay in the garage, and you know when it's ridiculous, like I have another car, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm spending a lot of time right now in the combination of pressure testing and like literally, let's talk about this. All of this shit applies exactly to entrepreneurship and building companies, right? So it's
Yeah.
like I'm pressure testing all the things to break the things that are weak so that I can fix and replace them before it's wintertime, before like it actually matters and becomes a potentially dangerous situation. I mean, we've
Yeah.
talked about that before. Like people die in Montana, not from bears and mooses and mountain lions. They die from the cold. They die from getting into situations where the weather shifts quickly and they're not prepared for it and they get stuck. That's how you die in Montana. So I'm starting one of the many projects today. I have to replace all of the liquids in the entire car with lower temperature rated liquids. So I have to replace all the differential fluids, the gaskets. They're all kind of drippy and droopy because they've probably never been. I mean, I'm sure they have. It's a 35-year-old truck, but it's all dripping. So replace all the gaskets in the differentials, replace all the oils to a low, like a -30 degree rated oils, replace the gearbox oil. And that's just like the minimum stuff. I need to pull apart the entire inside of the car, like pull out all the carpets, the roofing panel, all the seats, because I don't think any of it. I know there's like one strip in the backseat on the floor where the floor is insulated, but I don't think any of the rest of it is. And they don't come insulated. Like you have to add the
No.
insulation. So
Yeah.
I think it's all just like bare steel with, you know, like a piece of felt on top of it. So there's just a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Replace all
There's
the
a lot
glow
there.
plugs in the motor. And there's some aftermarket systems you can do to keep it warm. Webasto is this company that makes a heating system that you build into the engine that pulls fuel. So it actually runs on diesel.
Yeah, I
So you can
actually
like,
have one of those. I
oh,
have
you
one of
do?
those in
Sweet.
our schoolie and then all the vans I've been building. Like I use Webasto. Well, they're just better. It's a more reliable system than you can go on Amazon and buy like the knockoff from China. But I hear
Yeah.
bad things, and
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I have strong opinions on knockoffs from China after my
Yeah,
bottle
I'm
keeper
sure.
days.
Yeah,
But there's also like, yeah, so you save $500 and then you die in the
yeah,
wilderness because the truck won't start and that thing doesn't work. It's like problem. It's a problem.
yeah. There's either that or like it catches on fire or
Yeah,
it's
or
literally it's a
that.
heater. It's a heater that's connected to your fuel tank. So it's like let's not buy the cheap one. That would be a bad idea. So,
So how,
I invited myself on this podcast, if anyone's wondering, because Adam lives down the street from me, and my friend went on, and I was like, "Hey, Adam, you should have me on your podcast." So you
no,
tell me, Adam, what are we
it's a
supposed to
great
talk about?
it's a great fit. We talk part about entrepreneurship and part about all the hard things that we do
Oh,
and
good.
you do to become comfortable being uncomfortable, which is a wildly important part of being able to survive entrepreneurship.
It is.
Because
I
like
agree with that.
companies fail when people quit. So how do we keep you from quitting to get to that inflection point? That's the
Yeah,
thesis.
they do. I saw this post, it's probably like 5 years ago, and it made a really big impact on me at the time, which is that companies commit suicide. They do not get murdered. Like they don't get like taken out. Like nobody's coming for you. Really, the things that are coming from you come from the inside, which is
Mm-hmm.
pretty crazy. And if it's, a solopreneur or a small team, it's literally like one person not having it anymore and not having like I guess either the grit or whatever you'd want to like define it as to keep going, it ruins everything. Which is crazy because it's like I think people tell themselves when they get started, and then also when you have fears when you get started. Megan and I started an edible cookie dough company when it was popular to do that. And I think that there were a lot of other people that like fast followed us, copied us, did a bunch of stuff that was essentially copying. You probably had a similar experience with Bottle Keeper, like you said,
Yeah.
the Chinese knockoffs, things like that. And there was this company that opened across the street from one of our scoop shops, or at least we thought they were going to open across the street, and then they ended up doing a different location, same town though. And I remember how like not annoyed we were, but how like afraid. And it was a very strange thing. So we were 18 months into doing this. We're very young, and you have this moment where you've convinced yourself like they're going to steal my business, like they're going to be the reason that we don't do well, when really the reason you don't do well would just be you. And at the end of the day, they ended up failing for probably a number of reasons, and then we ended up thriving. But it was like that had nothing to do with us. We didn't take them out. We didn't steal their customers. We didn't do anything that probably impacted them in that big of a way. And they probably also did not impact us that large of a way. It was just you are guys are running the same race like on a track. You're not going to throw rocks at the other runner. That would be psychotic.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you
Yeah.
said reminded me of that because it's true. It's like you only go until you can keep going. You'll be the one that quits.
Yeah. I think, there are so many opportunities in a startup, and maybe what I'm about to say is more relevant in the earlier stages, but I mean, the earlier stage can last a decade. So let's be clear about that, where having blinders on is so valuable. Like I get, I hear this in Pentane, and we're a couple years into it. It's like, what if XYZ company does L? Like, I don't fucking care. I don't give a shit. Like, great. I hope they do that. I hope they help more companies by doing some of the things that we're doing. That is the point. Like, the pie is big. We really need to like spend all our time worrying about how we're going to defend our piece of this massive pie. Like when you become public, I guess that becomes a problem because you have to increase your stuff every quarter, or there are issues. But that's not where we're at.
No, for a private company, I think so much of the time, and I've heard a lot of people talking about this recently, and I recently jumped on board with it. It's why I'm in Bozeman. But there's a good thing to staying small, and there are good things to staying like in your lane, and having like a small piece of a very large pie is actually pretty awesome if you're an individual person. Um, so like of course, like Meta has to focus on like quarter over quarter revenue growth, but you, Adam, do not have to focus on that. Like,
No.
if you'd like to stay in the same spot for the rest of time, you could, and it would be fine. And also, to your point about like, I hope they do that. It's like, yeah, and I hope they validate what you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's effectively like free press.
Yeah,
I've never really understood that. Stay in your lane, stay focused, just do good shit, and you'll be all right. Again, as long as you can stay in the game for as long as possible. Because there are times, they go like this. A lot of the time you're down here, and that hard stuff, those uncomfortable places, are where things fall apart, or where people implode and give up.
they are. And like, if you're giving advice to like younger entrepreneurs or people that are getting started that have not necessarily done the thing before, like they've been working a 9 to 5 job or whatever it was prior, I find that so often, like the best advice is just like simple skills or habits to like get out of the funk. That inevitably happens when you are down here. I've been
What
asking
are
people that question on my own podcast because it's interesting. It's like everybody has their own like little thing, but you know how this feels. You could have like objectively, your life can be amazing. And like if you told someone 50 years ago like what you do every day, they'd be like, wow, your life is amazing, but you have a bad day. And like letting that bad day ruin the rest of your stuff is not good. And eventually it will become a disease that kills the whole thing. Um, so yeah, it's like you have to have like little habits that get you out of that funk.
Let's go tactical for you personally, plus what you hear when you ask other people that question that you find particularly interesting. What are some of those things?
So I had this happen for the first time during right before the pandemic. So it wasn't during COVID. Megan and I started the company in 2017. I had 2 years of what I would call too much success. And I say that like not we were not making like millions of dollars. So that's back up. But for a 23-year-old kid that didn't come from much, like I was making a lot of money that I did not necessarily know what to do with. Everything became really, really easy, especially when like you didn't build a lifestyle based on that. So you make like multiples more than you spend. you put yourself in a mindset of nothing can go wrong very quickly. And it's a bad mindset to get into in early days. And you'd mentioned before, like the startup usually lasts a long time. For us, it lasted a very short period of time. And then the scale happened very quickly, which is not great. I don't think for young or inexperienced people that are surrounded by what I would call like not the greatest human beings is what happened to me and Megan. Um, but the first time I faced adversity was in the tail end of that. We had borrowed a lot of money to open a lot of stores. um, we'd paused franchising for a moment, but we had a bunch of new franchisees coming on board. And it was like December, January of 2019, 2020. And at the time, I was doing a lot of meetings with our current franchisees because people's sales, same store sales were down. It was the winter. They had just opened their stores the year before. We'd gone from one to almost 10 stores in less than 2 years. And we were outgunned. And I started to get into a funk simply based on the fact that I was like, I, for the first time ever, am facing adversity and I feel like a failure. And like that was a weird feeling for me because I had started building up in my head, like no baked success is my success. I am no baked. At the time when I was 25 and this had all happened, I wasn't working out anymore. I didn't have anything outside of work that I did. No hobbies. I had zero hobbies. I did not work out. I did not do anything. Nothing. My hobbies were drinking and partying and spending the money that I was making, but most of the time was spent working. And so I had that first moment and experience, and it was very difficult for me to get through. And what I realized about like 1 or 2 months into it, best way to get out of this is I'm gonna like get out of the house, start meeting new people. I realized I had no mentors in my life. And this isn't as tactical as it could be, but the tactical part of it for me was I was going to try to meet a new entrepreneur every day. I've done something like that recently. I've done it many more other times in my life. Usually, when I'm trying to figure things out, I find that making more connections actually helps. A lot of people look at it as a waste of time, but it's how I met you. It's how I met a lot of people when I moved here to Bozeman. Um, that period of time in my life in Nashville, I was just like, hey, I don't know anyone who else is in my shoes, literally. Like, I know some other people who are giving me advice, but they've never been in my shoes. And maybe I should try to find someone who's been in my place before. That really helped to me. I met a lot of really great people. Those people ironically helped us do what we did with the company in 2020 and 2021 and pivot to direct to consumer. Um, it was all very ironic. And, you could say that like things happen for a reason, but that
Yeah.
helped a lot for me because I'm a social person. The other thing that helped is I had a mantra and I continued that from that winter of 2020 literally till today, which is that every day I will do something that I enjoy doing every day. Um, I think people take that. I had this argument I remember with Megan at the time where she was like, "Well, that costs money," and I was like, "No, it doesn't. It does not have to cost money." Yes, most people's hobbies cost money, but my hobby could just be like, I'm gonna go for a run, or I'm gonna go for a walk in the park. I'm gonna walk my dog in the park outside of the city because I like being outside. That's free. I mean, yeah, I paid gas to get there, I guess, but like the point is like you can find a little tiny thing, a piece. Maybe you like to cook. Maybe you like to, I don't know, just hang out with your friends and talk. Maybe you like to play board games. Maybe you like to do puzzles. These things are like pretty low cost. You have to find something in your life like that, that no matter what is happening around you, no matter if it's one of those days where your bank account's at like negative $15,000 and the AR hasn't come in yet and you have to make payroll, like you can still just do that one thing. And like that has nothing to do with work. It has nothing to do with being an entrepreneur. It has everything to do with being a human. You are going to die. Therefore, why would you spend one day not doing just a little thing that you like doing? And that's actually become a lot more helpful when I had kids. Um, because as you know, like kids take up a lot of time. Um, and they're a lot of work. And I think that like, I constantly hear people say like, I lost myself in my children and I stopped doing things I enjoyed doing. And it's like, well, you didn't have to be like an absent father to do things that you liked to do. You and I actually had a conversation about this. Like, just pick something and you do that thing for yourself, but like, don't spend too much time on it, but spend some time on it. For you, I think it's hunting. For me, it's mostly like working out. I like to run a lot. Uh, and yeah, you have to have like a thing like that that's a habit, especially a daily habit that like sits with you. I remember that winter, this is the silliest thing in the world, but the thing for me was I would sit in the hot tub at our apartment at night and do the books because I found it to be relaxing. that is kind of related to the business, but like I found it to be like fun. It's not fun. No one should be that insane. But yeah, you have to have little things that you're doing for yourself, not for other people.
Yeah, I mean, I completely and totally agree. Whatever the hell that is for you, find little ways to just get little tiny wins, and
Yeah,
those little tiny wins like add up, and they feel amazing. And they don't have to. I agree. Like, don't have to cost anything. Just get outside.
yeah.
Go look
Well,
at a bird. Go literally hug a tree, and I mean that literally. Like, go hug a fucking tree. It actually feels nice. It's weird. It's this weird thing.
I might try that later.
Yeah.
That's not actually sounds nice as you're saying it. Yeah, now that you're saying like little wins, it's like yes, you go out, you find those little wins, you stack them, and you get to change the game because like life doesn't have set rules. I mean, our culture tends to direct us in one direction or another of like the rules for you are like success for you may look a certain way because of your family, their expectations, the background that you live in. But success can look however you'd like it to look, and teeny win successes can look however you want them to look. And if you gamify life, you can stack those wins, and that does feel pretty great.
Yeah. And you know what I found? I don't remember where I read this. I had a really difficult year in 2016 going into 17. And it was similar to what you're talking about. Like, we had so much success at Bottle Keeper so quickly. We were literally printing money. We had no investors. We had no employees. My wife and I were out of the country for 4 or 5, 6 months of the year, screwing off in Africa and Europe and Asia. And all, like, we were on for all intents and purposes. Like, we did it. Like, we won.
Yeah,
And I found um, we were in Italy after being in Austria, or I'm sorry, in Switzerland for Christmas. We were in Italy for New Year's with friends, and I was a freaking disaster. Like, we had just crushed. We did $4 or $5 million in revenue in December with no employees. We had crushed, and I was so depressed and an absolute disaster. And it was like that was my rock bottom in this epic place, doing fun things with friends. So I had to make a bunch of changes. And I remember reading somewhere that one of the ways to get that really really quick win that's free is literally to just go do something nice for somebody else for nothing. You don't know, that you expect nothing in return. It can be really really simple ridiculous things like holding doors open for people, like really simple things. And it's amazing how good that feels and how much it can really positively impact your mental, like fast, like immediately. It's pretty incredible.
yeah, I actually agree with that. And it's not something that I've ever like read. It's only something I experienced and never thought about actually until you just said it. But it's true. Like one of the things for me that makes me, I don't know, just have a good day, a good time, is if I'm able to like do anything at all for someone who else is like in a, I guess, a different part of their entrepreneurial journey, especially people that are getting started. Megan and I have like worked a lot with the entrepreneurship program at our like university that we went to, and Megan's an entrepreneur in residence there now, which is interesting. She has to fly back to Nashville to do it, but it makes us no money. Like really, it just does not. Like we don't get paid. There's not great. I mean, Belmont pays her a little bit of money, but like it's not worth it. She literally just does it 'cause she likes it. And I end up going and helping out for free. And I'm just like, I actually just really enjoy this. I enjoy seeing people at the beginning of their journey who are actually taking action. And you can like tell them something that's like, hey, like maybe you should try this like thing. And they'll come back to you like a month later and they're like, I tried the thing and it's actually working. And you're like, wow, cool. Like I did something that like actually made someone's life better. That's pretty great. It's not often that you actually get to do that. And like you said, it's probably like even small things like opening the door for somebody, just being a polite person in general, everyday life, being kind, because that's free. Um, yeah, these things feel pretty great.
Yeah. How this is I'm going to go selfish here for a minute.
Yeah.
How do you and Megan, and I know you've made some changes recently and we can talk about that, but like how do you structure working together? And I will caveat that selfish question with, in Pentane, our kids are now fully in school. So my wife Katie has a lot of extra time that she hasn't had in a very long time. And so she's starting to help me because I have plenty of stuff I need help with. and it's we're only 2 weeks into it, and it is extremely helpful. But I do fear like the longer term. We live in the same house. My office is out of the house. Where like work just becomes and things around Pentane and whatever social media and all these things like just become part of our all the time discourse. When I leave my office, I expect to not have to talk about those things. So like, how have you guys structured that for? I mean, you've been doing it for a while.
The thing you said at the end is actually I think the most important. And I read this originally in James Clear's Atomic Habits, which is
Hmm.
that like you can like your brain is really good at geolocating, which is why they tell people not to work at home. But if they do work at home, don't work on the couch or don't get on your laptop in bed because that's psychotic.
Yeah,
Anyone listening, just don't do that.
yeah, it's a terrible idea.
You'll have sleep like I did last night, and I have a 6 month old who is sick for the first time in her entire life, which she has like a sniffly nose, but she didn't sleep all night.
Yeah,
Uh, and to answer your question, what we've done recently and what we've had to learn to do is to geolocate work away from the places where we do not want it to be. Megan has a lot more experience with that than I do, because her parents owned a business together her whole entire life growing up. Um, and I would say it didn't work out in the same exact way that it worked for me and Megan. Her parents are still together. I don't know how. To just throw that out there. And it happens to a lot of people. It's probably why you're asking me this question. It becomes all about work. Work wasn't the passion, and then that's the problem. So that's kind of the other solution that Megan and I found is like I have always been that guy that I didn't work in the corporate world for very long. So this is kind of silly for me to say because we don't know if I would have always been this way. But when I was younger, I would talk about my dumb job with my friend. I liked my job. I always liked the jobs that I had. I was very passionate about them. I like to hop into things. I also ended up becoming an entrepreneur because I became very frustrated with my jobs because they didn't give me enough control. And I think control is like an important like piece there. The way that that relates back to like working with your spouse is you just have to figure out like what kind of person are they. So like if you're the kind of person, Adam, where you want to leave work in your office, like a specific space in your house, then you guys just have to both be that way to communicate it, and then you have to just like do it together. And work to not, it's like anything else in like life or marriage or whatever, they just work to not talk about it outside of that space. Megan and I have gotten very good at it. I think a lot of other couples are not good at it. And then the second piece, this is kind of like this is an ongoing process. I am very passionate at work, like I mentioned before, so I do end up talking about it all the time. Um, the thing I've told Megan is it could be something unrelated to you, and I'd still be talking about it all the time. So you kind of like when you got me, which she got me before No Baked, I was like, you knew what you're buying. Like I'm that guy. Like I talk about work, it's fun. I enjoy it. That's what I enjoy doing. Like I said, I think we all go through like a toxic period in our lives, and like my toxic period was like I love a couple things in life a lot. I love working and I love alcohol. and I, and I like to party. So like when I was 25 and 24, those were my favorite things to do. Um, and even before that. So like it was just easier then because I had money. So like I think sometimes people fall into like their toxic habits and like those were mine. Now they no longer are. I mean I actually yeah, we like had dinner the other night at that barbecue place here in Bozeman. And it's like I drink an athletic brewing. I avoid alcohol now, on purpose. And I still drink just so everyone knows I'm not an alcoholic, but like I know that like I shouldn't be doing that all the time. Similar, I know I shouldn't be talking about work all the time. Not everybody likes that. My kids don't want to talk about no baked with me. They don't want to talk about investing in companies. That's not their favorite. Um, they want to talk about whatever they're interested in. So really part of that's just becoming like a better person. And I mean, you kind of already have the tools to do that, but those are the cautionary tales, I think, is you see people talk about it too much, like you already said, or you see them like not geolocated at all. And then even people who are single and they're running a company by themselves, you see them get really depressed and like really, really exhausted really fast. I
yeah.
don't know if you have any friends that have like they're that guy that like they would work from anywhere, like on their phone, laptop, like in their bed. It messes with your brain.
Yeah, I mean, there's there are unfortunately an incredible number of people like that. And I saw this recently um, from a friend, actually a Bozeman friend, who was he basically he's a VC and he shit posts about other VCs that do ridiculous things. And it was a post from like Y Combinator or something ridiculous like that, where some 22-year-old kid was quoted in an article as saying that they're living this 996 culture. It's the new grind culture where they work from 9 to 9, 6 days a week. All they do is eat meat and steak and eggs and lift heavy, and that's it. And it's like, you guys are fucked. That's awesome. That's all we need is a bunch of people that are super miserable and maybe wealthy, but probably not. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you
that
might
sounds
be
awful.
healthy. If you, I mean, maybe you'll be healthy.
Like,
You probably won't. You're not going
no.
outside. You're not going
Yeah.
outside. That's not good.
Yeah. So let's segue that to, you had in the last couple of weeks, you had a LinkedIn post that I'm going to read that went a little bit nuts. Yeah. I think you
Yes, I
just
did.
muted, but yeah. It was basically, you quoted another post, and this was effectively like half of why you took a break. But the post was, there's an American making $400,000 a year. And the quote is, if I grind for 30 years and make enough money, I can retire and spend my afternoons sipping espressos on the Mediterranean. And then the next piece of that is, French guy living on $23,000 a year in benefits. And the quote is, I should get some coffee this afternoon. Maybe I'll walk around the beach. Now, this resonates with me wildly because I've spent a lot of time in these places, and the lifestyle and culture are just fantastic. Why did this resonate with you, given where you are in life right now?
So here's why it resonated with me, and then I'll say why I think it resonated with the public based on the comments. It resonated with me, and I posted it. So I've tried since the beginning of the summer, really since March, when I made a lot of decisions around like stepping away from NoBaked's, turning it into something that worked for me rather than me working for it. It became clear that like in order to get an exit, I would have to do things that I didn't want to do. Um, and that then I kind of re-engineered the problem. And so the reason I liked it is also like you, I've been to those places in real life. I have seen the way people live. I've seen the way that they treat their family, their friends. Um, Megan studied abroad in Italy. She's also experienced it more than I have. I think people will look at Europe and they're like, well, you guys don't create shareholder value. That's true. The trillion
100%.
dollar
Yeah.
the trillion dollar market cap companies are all based in the United States. I think one of them, I think LVMH maybe past a trillion, and that would be the only one in Europe. Um, so you look at these two places and you're like, okay, so you guys aren't creating shareholder value. I would say their tax system probably has a little bit to do with that, but also like they're creating a social safety net so that people can live a life that they would like. The way that they're living, unfortunately, will probably be the way, and this is why it resonates with me a little bit. And then there's a bigger reason. That's the way that people will have to live post AI. Most people, you can choose to keep grinding and you can choose to do your thing, but we should focus as a society on making it really great to live a normal life. And what does that look like post AI? Maybe you work 2 days a week. Maybe that's the standard work week. You work 2 days. You're gonna make normal amount of money. You're not gonna make a lot of money. You're gonna have free healthcare. You're gonna have like some things that make sure that you're okay. And if you choose, because this is America, you choose to continue to apply yourself, you'll probably become wildly wealthy. But if you don't, and you just want to raise your kids and enjoy yourself, the cost of living should probably be lower because AI should be deflationary. And I believe that like the automation that comes with it should be extremely deflationary. I mean, there's no reason people already waste so much time at work that it's like, are you really working 40 hours? Don't lie to me.
Completely. Yeah, totally.
Um, every entrepreneur I know is working more than 40 hours, but like you go into an office, like what are you doing? And I know that, and they know that, and that leads us with a lot of questions as a society. The second reason it resonated with me is personally, I stepped away from Novix because I realized like I can have what I want now. So I don't need to have an exit. So the exit is very similar to the person that works a very, very long time, grinds away. They sell their company, they have tons of money. There's nothing wrong with exiting. Just to be clear, this is not a bad thing to sell your company. What's a bad thing is you saying, I know the roadmap, which is where I was at in March, of I need to borrow a little bit more money. We need to run this co-man business. We need to get a lot bigger. We need to show positive EBITDA. at a certain level so PE acquires us. Um, and that's going to take a certain amount of time and a lot of energy, and I'm not passionate about it. I do not like it. What I'm passionate about is money. Why am I passionate about money? Because I like freedom. Freedom sounds good to me. It sounded good to me since I was 16 and I got to get my driver's license. It was my like creme de la creme, like the thing that I was going after when I was 16. And then it became something else. And then at the end of the day, when I was around 20 years old, I realized I did an epiphany that money equaled freedom if it was applied in the right way. Money is a tool. So if you say you like money, you're kind of a crazy person unless you define what that
Yeah.
means for you.
You need context.
Yeah. And for me, it meant freedom. So like I don't want to have to work. And then I realized, wait, if I rejigger some things at NoBaked's and we stop working so hard, maybe I don't have to work. Or maybe I just have to work a little bit. And maybe I'm happier with that. Um, Ironically, like here toward the end of the summer, I'm starting to work a little bit more on some other projects that I am interested in. But like the fascinating thing was I realized I could be like the French person. I had already acquired that. I had acquired it years ago and I could have kept it. Ironically, I just kept trying to grow. A lot of the reason that I now have to like work a little harder and like we don't have as good of a lifestyle is it's like we tried to grow. There's a lot more debt on the books. There's a lot more problems. There's a lot more complications because I tried really, really hard, like push the gas pedal. Um, I'm waking up to this and I'm 31 and like, obviously we've been doing this for almost 9 years. It was a 9 year journey that had to happen, and I had to learn that lesson in real time. I think I can pass that lesson on to some other people. That's why it resonated with me though, because in my own life, like I can choose to be either of those people right now today. Today I'm choosing to be the French dude. It's great with me. I don't make as much money. Um, I won't like go throw out the number, but it's like it's not $23,000. But I don't make as much money. But at the same time, like all my bills are paid. If I chose to, could go on a hike today for the next 3 days and not come home, and nothing would happen. It would be fine. It's very similar to what happened to Tim Ferriss in his book. Like when he wrote the 4 Hour Work Week, I know he had a similar experience where he was like, and I'd read the 4 Hour Work Week. This is the crazy part. I had seen it before that like I could do the thing, and I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to feel like a failure. But that's cultural, and that is the strangest part. I think I may have referenced it further down in the post, but like we're kind of wired to be like we need more. Like I want a McLaren. Like saw one downtown Bozeman the other day, and I was like, moved here thinking they didn't have those here. Um,
Yeah,
Son of a bitch.
that's a new thing. That's a
Yeah.
very new
So
thing. Yeah.
then I get in my head, I'm like, I want to buy that car. Like, how much more will I have to work to buy the car? And there's this great book called Die with Zero. It was written by a hedge fund manager who lives down in Austin or Houston or somewhere down in Texas. Um, he's a commodities trader. I don't remember his name. I'm sorry. I had a post about him at some point, but that's a great book. And the concept of the book is kind of like, hey, you should try to match up what you make with like what you will spend, and therefore you will die with zero. And that can include like I want to pass money on to my kids or whatever it might be. But like you can actually re-engineer the number right now. You can say like, hey, I will spend over the course of my life $121 million. So if I make $121 million and I am 35, I should stop working because you're wasting your time if you keep working after that. You're getting zero value. Every hour of your life, you're either doing like work or play or something. And it's like you want to be doing the thing you want to be doing. So that resonated with me a lot. And it's why I posted the post. And then comment section, like why I think it resonates with the American public right now is like I've had more posts like that. I was like, well, why don't I just keep down this thread and see what happens? And I posted them on Threads. I posted them on X. I posted them on LinkedIn. They went viral everywhere.
Mhm.
People are feeling sick and tired of trying so hard. I think to aspire to a lifestyle that they may not want. Um, and I know you could speak to that even better than I could. Like, yeah, money's not gonna make you happy. Like, that's not the end all be all. It's nice to have, and it's definitely needed. But it's matched with your lifestyle. It's matched with the things you want to use it to get. Um, and we've created some issues here in the United States that make it a little harder now to say like you don't want it. Like a home now is very expensive no matter where you
Yeah.
live. Uh, Childcare is very expensive, so if you want kids, like you better pony up some money. So those things are problems, but I think people have a desire to be the French person, and they're mad. And then I think I see this from a lot of later career people on LinkedIn, not as much like extra threads because those were like mostly positive or just people agreeing with me. Um, on LinkedIn, there's an older crowd that did it, and I think they may regret it. And I'm not going to argue with them about it because that's not my job. But I think the lesson is that you live one time and you can choose to do anything you want today. You can do a new business, you could quit your job, you can move to Fiji, you can leave your family, you can do whatever you want. No one's going to stop you. I think people should live to their values and not to like some kind of like weird cultural background noise. Because that's what I was doing in my 20s, and it was built into me. It's again, it's not my dad's fault that he was a hard worker. My dad at one point, my dad was a firefighter. He ended up doing very, very well later in his life. Made the right decisions financially. But like my dad bought a business one time. He went bankrupt while I was a kid. Um, and that was right before the recession. And then like we had two mortgages because like they wanted to move to like a better school district so me and my brother could go to a good school. And then the housing crisis happened, and then he's left with two mortgages and car payments, and he's a firefighter. So like my dad at one point worked like three jobs, spent all of his time working. And money became this thing where it was like you need to have that like badly, and you need to work your ass off to get it. Um, and then also culturally, I live in America. I lived in a very wealthy community. That's where my dad wanted to move and where we did move. And other people's parents are very rich. And the people around me were trying to go to good schools so they could be rich, I guess. And you start seeing this cycle of like,
Yeah.
you guys are desperate to do this thing, and it gets programmed into kids without them knowing it. And I was one of those kids. And I happen to be very good at like achieving. So if there's a thing that I want to do, I do it naturally. It's not like it's not hard for me to work 100 hours a week in the name of a thing that I think I need to do. Um, so yeah, that's like the thing that I think is kind of broken in America, and it was been interesting moving to Bozeman, meeting people like yourself who I think realized a lot of those problems in your own time and place, and you realize like, hey, I want to be able to like live the life I want to live and do the thing I want to do. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs resonate with that because a lot of us start our businesses with that in mind. Like, I want to be my own boss. They don't start it with I want to become like worth $100 million or whatever it is. That's usually not the desire. At
Mhm.
least it's usually I want to solve a problem. I want to be my own boss for the people that succeed.
If you're an early stage e-commerce brand doing anywhere from startup to 5 million a year in revenue, Pentane was built for you. It can help you operate more profitably. Just launched is a pulse check report. This shows you what's working, what's not working, and exactly what to do within your business. And this is not just general advice. It is very specific. Like raise your prices by 4.6% to get to break even, or you need to hit a 2.34 return on ad spend in order to remain profitable with your marketing. It's far better than a report you'd get from an outsourced CFO that would cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And right now it is totally free. Head to pentane.com/pulse check to learn more. Yeah, the difficulty comes from moving down that path. And I think all early stage companies probably go through this. Certainly know that I have. And where you go down that path and you try really hard to not let this happen, but it naturally happens where suddenly you're just a slave to that thing. And there's always this big question of, are you working on your business or in your business? Or I mean,
Yeah, that's
you went and started the company and now you literally work for the company. I was having conversations this weekend at a entrepreneurship thing here in Bozeman with these early stage e-coms, and their stories are relatively consistent. They're all like, the business is doing $1 million a year, which is awesome, but they're manually, personally shipping and fulfilling all the product. It's like, I get it. Like I've been there, but you got to put systems and things in place to be able to separate yourself from that, or you were literally just a slave to that thing. You're an employee of your own company.
yeah, you're just a contractor at that point. And I think that it may be even worse because sometimes you have employees and then you like
Yeah.
you gotta pay them, you gotta work because you're part of the machine. Yeah, it's a very that's interesting. And it's a very tricky spot to be in. I hate giving advice to people on that spot because it is the scariest place to be in my mind as a founder. I messed it up bad when I was a D2C founder. Uh, like botched it hard, and I think a lot of other people do because there's so many things that can go wrong. Like I could not predict what will go wrong for those people, but it'll
Yeah.
be something. And at the same time, everything you're saying is completely true. Like you have to build the systems for tomorrow today, and you have to have the grit to persevere and continue to work really, really hard to make the dream happen today while the systems are getting built. And then you have to make sure you stay profitable or you have to raise money. And you're not, I don't think raising money is a good idea for a D2C company anymore. I've seen too
Yeah.
many bad stories for me to think that it's a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, it took a big turn in, 22 after all the ZERP capital got deployed and things sort of imploded, zero interest rate periods. But yeah, I mean, the way that I look, I'm kind of the opposite. I actually really enjoy talking to those early stage and helping those early stage operators
Sure.
because it's like you can, because again, I've been like you, I've been in that position. Like there was a time in Bottle Keeper that at the end of that year, that's when I was like, I have to make some massive personal changes so that this thing is not so dependent on me. Because we did $8 million that year and it was just my cousin and I. Like I was responsible for all of the customer service, all of the branding, all the paid media. Literally, I was running
Wait,
$3 million in ad campaigns.
were you guys shipping out of like your garage or something?
We were shipping out of my cousin's warehouse. He had a different business and we literally flew our family into Phoenix. We had a order packing party where like we all came in for a week and just crushed pallets of product. My dad, my mom, my sister, my aunts, my uncles. We flew in like everybody we could find to Phoenix, Arizona to pack product.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
it's like, okay, there's a problem. I took a dry erase board after that, going into like January when we got back and wrote out all the things I was doing and just started circling things that I should not be doing. Customer service. Matt shouldn't be doing fulfillment. I shouldn't be personally managing $3 million in ad spend while I'm also trying to like CEO the company and develop new product and build optimize a website. So, but to me, that's just recognizing where those problems are. They're all solvable, but you have to like stop, recognize the impact those things are having on your business in order to figure out ways to go and solve them. And it's that realization that I think is one of the hard things for me. Again, I had to have like a relatively traumatic event to get to the point where I was like, oh shit, this is bad. This is really bad. I got to make some big changes.
yeah, I had a similar traumatic event that actually drove us to outsourcing everything. They're very, very similar. It was, I think August, really the whole summer of 2020. We were like 2 weeks behind shipping orders the whole time, and we made the product as well as packed it. And I had like a store that had been like we kind of like shut the store down and turned it into like a packing facility. It was like 6,000 square feet, so it wasn't bad. Terrible retail store because you should not be paying for 6,000 square feet of prime real estate for a dessert shop. That is that's stupid. It was the first shop I ever, it was the first and only shop we ever lost money on. Yeah, we had that moment, and then we had this week where I told everyone like I'll give you a bonus if you can pack all the orders so to get caught up. And we had a team of like 30 people just making all the shit. We're hand scooping jars, Adam, which is psychotic. Um, they still do that at Graders, by the way. I don't know if you're familiar with that ice cream brand. This is a
Yeah,
tangent. They
totally.
hand scoop all of their ice cream puns, all of them. I don't know how or why. It's like the French pot method. I don't get it. I'll never understand it, but they do that. Um, yeah, so we didn't get caught up that week, and everyone was really mad at me, like really angry. I gave them a bonus anyways. I was like, I can't, it's like I can't withhold this from you. They were like 50 orders behind or something. They were very close. Um, but it was like that moment where I was like, we need to find a 3PL. We need to find a co-packer because this is not my jam. Um, I was being really weird about it too. Like it was like tracking the cost per order out in labor hours, which was pretty easy at that point because then it was like tracking the labor cost for like creating the product, packing it, repacking it, putting it in the box, shipping it, sending it like to UPS. Um, it was actually very cheap too. It was like at one point I had it down to like 380 a order, which is insane. To like make that was like labor into the product and everything. And the
Wow.
cost of goods on cookie dough is very low. But the thing that happened to me and why I say I don't like giving people advice at that point is I then had convinced myself that like we were going up and to the right for the rest of the time. This is a theme in my early life. And we just took all our extra cash and dumped it into ads. All of it. Irresponsible move. I thought like it's a money printer, it'll go burr.
Yeah.
like
No, we did that too. Yeah, we definitely went through
and
that.
then what happened was we had $0 in the bank. Um we have one bad week and we freak out. We were like, we can't pay any of our bills. No one's getting paid. And then it'd rectify, and then it happened again. And then when it happened for the last time, ironically, I was in the middle of raising money. And so it didn't put us out of business, but it would have, because that was April of 2021.
Hmm.
And our ROAS went from like 4.1 to like 2.8 in a month. And then that formula broke down where I was like, dump all the money back into the ads. And we hadn't built any other channels. We had a great email list too. Like we had lots of other things we could have been doing. Um, this is like I go down a rabbit hole on like the things I did wrong with D2C. Because then I spent the next 2 years like hating on it because I was so angry. Publicly on LinkedIn, everywhere else, like D2C is trash. If you don't have $100 AOV, you can't do it, which I still kind of agree with. It's
To,
hard.
Today
For
it's different. We operated at about a 60, but this was in the early days of paid media where you almost couldn't spend it fast enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and what you experienced probably, yeah, because you guys were early, way earlier on than us. What you probably experienced back in those early days, it felt that's kind of what we felt in the beginning of COVID. It's like there was one month specifically where we did 13x on a campaign, and I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I wish I spent more. Like, what is happening? Where we get more money from? And then we got grant money and we spent that. But yeah, COVID was wild. D2C is an interesting game because you're right. And like for people like yourself, I think I haven't known you very long, but like you feel like an optimization guy. That's just an optimization game. And if you can like keep a really clear head and you're smart, I think you can make almost any product business work. You just, I mean, unless the product's trash. If the product is good and it has a market, I think you can make almost any business work. Um, Especially now with TikTok Shop, Amazon, your own native website. There's so many places to sell your thing, and you only have to have a very small part of a very big pie.
Yeah, it is much harder today, particularly. And this is like the word of warning that I end up giving to a lot of early stage brands. Building a revenue model today entirely on paid media is just treacherous. It's been a slippery slope for quite a long time, and it will continue to be a slippery slope. So you have to think outside of that from a customer acquisition standpoint. And the companies that I see that are early on that are doing really well have a really significant content strategy, a really significant organic reach strategy. And then they use paid ads to sort of sprinkle fuel on the fire, which I think is a much safer way to build today.
It's a lot safer way to build. Yeah. Even with what like me and Megan are building right now, and the other things I'm working on, like our goal now is like how can we harness organic social to grow more organically? Um, which is ironic because now I'm not like obsessed with let's grow, grow, grow. Now it's like if we grew just like a little bit, like it's pretty cool. Um, because we're not putting that like fake pressure on. Um,
Yeah.
as far as like the things to like give people like advice on like tactically, it's like that I think is a huge one that more people should like adopt and apply to their life. People put a lot of like self-imposed pressure on growth, which is very strange. But I was one of those people for the last 9 years. Not anymore.
Yeah. It's great. So shifting gears real quick, if we talk through, it's obvious through this conversation that you have made some pretty significant lifestyle changes, in order to endure these sweet ups and downs of entrepreneurship. Um, how do you look at, I mean, I know you've done some hard things like you did an Ironman, which is a fantastically difficult physical and mental challenge. How do you look at building hard things? I know you like to run. How do you look at building hard things into your life to sort of
Um,
keep that comfort with being uncomfortable?
it's kind of strange for me. Again, this like goes back to my childhood, but it's It is what it is. I don't view some of this stuff as hard. I have an internal voice that tells me like wasn't hard consistently. Um, like I got done with my Ironman and I was like, could have ran it faster. That's like my immediate like thought, internal dialogue. And that actually is true. I could have ran it a lot faster. I took advice from all the people, like probably in your sphere, my sphere, and people that do that, and they were like, pace yourself, like have a plan. I did all those things, and I planned way too much, and I paced myself way too much. And I finished that race, and I was like, let's go like drink some beers by the pool and like hang out. I felt great. It was a half, so it wasn't hard at all. But that was the fastest half marathon I've ever ran in my entire life. What? Like that means I went way too soft on the bike, like way too soft. Anyways, um, uh, I think the way I think about it now is like you should build those things into your life in such a way that you're feeling challenged, but also they should probably be outside of business and they should be a thing that you have control over. So I love to say entrepreneurship is hard. You know, entrepreneurship is hard. You cannot control this game. Entrepreneurship is a chaotic system. First of all, you're building a chaotic system within another chaotic system. You cannot predict the future. You could do everything right and you could fail. I don't find that to be hard. I find that to be frustrating. And so for me, I try to build, and I know I'm very, very familiar with the concept of the Misogi, and I understand you're supposed to be able to fail. But the way that I look at it is it should also be something that you can like easily achieve in reality. Like it's not physically impossible. I think building a company, first of all, the goalposts are constantly moving. Anything outside of like physical challenge, it's like like what are we measuring? Like what is the game? Like is that really hard? It's kind of difficult. So for me, it's mostly just like physical stuff. So like Megan looked at me the other day and she was like, I bet you can't. I told her, I was like, I want to go to the peak of Baldy, like up the Bridge Ridge Trail. And she was like, that's going to take you all day. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, it's not going to take me all day, Megan. She's like, that's a really hard trail to me. She's like, you are out of shape because I am objectively than compared to what I was. And she was like, it's going to take you like 4 hours. And I was like, no, it's going to be three. And then it becomes like, can I get to the top of Baldy and back in 3 hours? Or can I get it faster than 3 hours? And so for me, that's mostly how I build those challenges into my life is it's just like things that I actually came up with that I think will be fun. But during the event, I find challenging yourself is like the most important thing to do because like, yeah, you can go up. There are times to hike up the mountain and enjoy yourself. And then there are other times, like maybe once a month or twice a month, to say like, I'm going to try to run as fast as I can. Similar to like running, like the way that that works is like you should not run as fast as you can every single time you run. That would be crazy. You'd probably hurt yourself. It's very easy to get injured running, especially as you get older. Or you're like me and you put on a bunch of weight and then you go back to run, like not great. Not great for your knees. So yeah, I think the way I think about it is just like challenging myself consistently in ways that like I find interesting and fun. Um, but yeah, the odds of me actually making it back and forth to the top of Baldy right now in 3 hours are very low. Did a trial run yesterday. I went halfway and I got back down in 30 minutes
You went
because you're
halfway, you went up
two,
2 miles.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
made it past Payne Rock, that
yeah,
that last climb before it flattens out.
yeah.
Okay.
So, and I got up there in 70 minutes. So I was like, okay, like this is doable. Maybe I just have to haul ass on the way back.
Yeah, I've done, yeah, we can nerd out on Montana trails a lot. That is a great run. And for the listener, Baldy it's 4 miles up, 4 miles down, 4,000 feet of elevation climb. And the
Yeah.
first, which you did half of, the first like mile and a third is 2,000 feet of elevation. So you're literally just like climbing up a
I
mountain
wasn't running. Yeah,
for a mile and a half.
I was climbing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was consistent, but it was funny. I was looking down at my heart rate and I was like, this is wild. Like heart rate stayed at like 165 the whole time. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't get my heart rate back down. I would stop, let it come back down for like 15 seconds. I was like, guys, I can't just like stay here the whole time. I mean, you could. But yeah, I tested it out and I was like, okay, I'm gonna definitely do this. This is a
I
three
mean,
hour
you
journey.
climbed the hardest part of the climb you already did. It's
Yeah.
mile one is brutal, mile two is mostly brutal, mile three is flat. I mean, it's epic. It's running through
You
the
know what?
trees on a single track trail. The last 2/3 of a mile is a all out climb up Baldy. There are three false summits, so you think you're there three times and you're not. It's a giant mind f.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm excited to do it. I think I'm gonna do it this week. Maybe tomorrow. And then like but the whole point around that is it's similar to what you asked. It's like, what do you do to challenge yourself? It's like
yeah,
you should build that stuff into your life. Um, and because what it does for me is it opens up like a whole new door of like you can do this. Like this is possible.
that's the beauty. And we'll wrap up after this. That's the beauty of doing the things. And I mean, like if we can encapsulate all that into a box, it's the doing the thing that you're not totally sure you can finish. It's not like, and let's be clear that it's all relative to your baseline. Your baseline is different than mine, which is different than my buddy Sam, who's a beast, which is different than my dad. Like we have entirely different baselines. So as you're listening to this, understand that your baseline is just different than ours. So it's all about just finding something that you're not entirely sure you can do. And the accomplishment, the mental change that comes from actually doing that thing, you look down at it and you go, well, shit, that wasn't that hard. And it
Yeah.
just wasn't. Like this big, huge, hairy thing that you thought was going to be impossible. Once you do it, even if it's super hard, you look at it differently. And that's like, again, that's like half the point of this podcast and discussion is by doing those things that are hard, it resets your perspective on what difficult is. And there's so much value in that.
There is a lot of value in that. And yeah, it does reset your perspective. When you were talking about that, I was thinking about like when I first started running, which was an interesting time for me because the thing that motivated me is I took one of those blood tests from Inside Tracker and I got the inner age add-on and it said that I was 37 and I believe at the time I was 27. I was 26 or 27. It's right after Ari was born. My first daughter. And it was a weird moment for me because I was super into longevity. I'd read a bunch of books on it. I was like, oh, it's so cool, into the supplements. But like I was not in shape. And I realized like the best medicine, and I've proven this on paper since then, is like best medicine is exercise by far. But when I was first getting started, to run 2 miles was so difficult. Um, and then to run four. And then I remember that year that I started running, and this was in 2021, which was an interesting year for us. So like we had a lot of weird things happen in the beginning of the year. Our house burned down in Nashville. We moved into the school bus that we now rent out, and here in Bozeman, we lived in that for a while. It's how we found out that we liked Bozeman so much. All that stuff had happened. Ario was like 1 year old. We got back to Nashville. I took that blood test while we were on the road that year, and I remember the first run. And then I remember subsequent runs, like in the cold, because it was getting colder in Nashville. And I told myself, I was like, I'm gonna run the half marathon in the spring. Like that's what I'm gonna do. And I remember like coming into the spring, it was probably February, and we did my first like 9 mile run ever in my whole life, like my entire life. Like not because I didn't run in high school. I played football, I played hockey. I never ran 9 miles. There's no reason to run 9 miles. It's hard to get a kid to do something like that. I'm sure I could have, but it's not something that you do.
Yep.
And so then there I am at 27, 28 years old. Yeah, 28, like, uh, running 9 miles for the first time in my entire life. And the feeling that I had, it was a perfect day in Nashville. It was like, you have these false springs that happen in Nashville in February. And, it was like 75, sunny, no clouds. The birds are chirping. There's like flowers coming up. It's like right after Valentine's Day. And I was like, this is the greatest day of my life. But that feeling only happens because I accomplished something that like I genuinely, if you had asked me back in the like fall, I would have been like, no, dude, not running 9 miles. That's crazy. And the crazy thing too is like I ran it at like a 9 minute pace and I was just like, this is insane. Like I can't believe I can do this. But I think for most people, it's like it has to start with something like that. I know in the Comfort Crisis in the book where he like addresses like the Misogi and everything like that, he describes like a time where he challenged himself to run like 30 miles randomly, just like picked, and was like, I'd never ran through 30 miles before. I mean, I guess I'll try. And maybe it's something like that for people where it's like you just got to pick what have you never done, give it a shot.
Where do you want people to find you online?
All right, guys, if you want to find us online, please follow my company, my brand, my baby, No Baked's Cookie Dough at No Baked. It's NoBaked. And then you can follow me on LinkedIn at Jimmy Feman, or you can follow me on Threads at Jimmy Feman or X, or any of those other places where people post their thoughts without a filter. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Adam. Thank you.
No, it was super fun. Appreciate it. A huge thanks to our guests today. Don't forget, this is powered by Pentane Financial and Advertising Command Center for Consumer Brands. Stop what you're doing, put your phone down, walk away from the computer screen, go outside, get some air, do something hard, push your limits, get uncomfortable, become more durable and more resilient, create the stamina required to get through those entrepreneurial barriers, stay in the game for as long as you can, and we will see you next time.